Element ranking tier list. Let's get into it. For the first element, we got fire. Honestly, fire isn't pretty bad. It's actually pretty nice. I like fire, me personally. Also, all of these are just my opinions, so if you have feel like I'm going a little too hard on your favorite element, then leave a comment down below. And then leave your opinion as well, cause like why not? Anyways, fire, uh how you get it, just go into the desert and then talk to someone, get the scroll of flames, and then talk to them back. And then you'll get the blaze wood handle and then the sword. Now, overall, fire sounds like a pretty good element to have in this game, since like most of the lore is in, a mountain, and mountains are usually pretty cold. It makes sense to make fire pretty strong. Well, honestly, yeah, fire's pretty mid actually. I don't know. I'm sad to see it be so ass, but like most of the time it is good. However, I feel like something that would be pretty fun to use is a flame sniper, cause like if you really think about it, it's pretty cool. You shoot flames from your gun, but sad thing is, it just sucks. You just don't go for a flame sniper. I tried before. I didn't go for it, but yeah, I later learned that it fire snipers could be viable. I mean, they could be, but no, it's not recommended. They're only viable if you're going for damage over time, which isn't really the best type of, damage to go with a sniper. Usually you go with like a big burst, since, sniper rifles. But like overall, fire is pretty solid. I mean, it's pretty easy to use. It has good damage. And like the perks that you get from the swords, yeah, they're pretty good. But like another thing that is pretty lacking with fire is that the armor pieces that you use with fire, they kind of suck. I mean, only viable one is like early game Ember Mage, and then late game if we're going wind, fire, then Omega Baddie. But other than that, fire gets a solid B tier from me. Next up on the list is wind, and I'm gonna be real with you. Wind is just the best thing ever. Like, oh my god, where do I begin? Okay, this might sound a little bit like I'm glazing wind, but no, I'm not. You can trust me, like, yeah. Okay, so for wind, it's pretty good in all situations. Let it be dungeon, let it be farming enemies, or even traveling around the map, which is probably the main reason why wind is so good. The tailwind perk, which gives you move speed depending on how strong the tailwind is, will help you traverse the map very quickly and so very easily. This leads to many other builds, such as a wind sniper, a wind rapier build, where you just stab the enemy a lot of times, and many other builds. But a disadvantage towards wind is that its armor and weapon arts are pretty lacking. However, with the recent bestiary update, wind got some better armor from the Altradon, and what were those things called? World Rays, yeah. Those give you some pretty good perks. But for weapon art, however, it has 2 weapon arts. Yeah, I know, it kinda sucks. But honestly, wind is just so good that it doesn't even need weapon arts. I swear this is not glazed. Please don't comment that I'm glazing wind. But yeah, overall, wind on this tier list gets a solid A tier. Now, from this point on, I haven't really tried many of the elements, so if I do a little mistake in the ranking, or if you think that the element doesn't deserve the rank, please let me know down below in the comments. Anyways, let's get into the next element. The next element we have is Holy, and Holy is actually a pretty decent element. It's good, it's versatile, it has heals, which is probably the main reason why Holy is very nice. And going Holy isn't really so bad, healing people and all of that. But yeah, Holy is one of the 2 elements I think that can heal, or just has usually heal based builds, support type. But yeah, now the way you get Holy Blade and the handle is you talk to the church person in the overgrown forest, not the one where you join the guild, but the other guy who's just sitting there. You talk to him, he's gonna give you a cure, and then you gotta give that cure to some guy in the frontier village. And now, actually, you can drink this cure. I don't know what happens if you do, but you can do that, which I think just bans you from getting the Holy Blade, which I don't think you should do unless you're just that guy. Anyways, Holy, it's versatile, like I said before. But in terms of damage, you might think that it kind of sucks because, it's a healer build, or it mainly is used for healing. But there are actual nukes, and by nukes I mean like heals that do a ton of damage. Yeah, heals doing damage. This might shock you a little bit, but in VoxlBlade, you can actually fight back as a healer, though not as effective. But it does, you can damage, but yeah. However, the heals in this game are pretty good, but the damage is absurd. I don't know how a healer build can have like 200 HP heals and along with like 10,000 damage from the heal ability alone. There are also runes that aid the build in some way. And yeah, healing runes are pretty, they're just there. People use them and all that, but yeah. Honestly, overall, Holy gets an A tier from me on this tier list. The next element on this tier list is Earth, and it gets an immediate S tier. No need for explanations. Next up on this element tier list is Water. And I feel like Water has the biggest potential to be the best element in this game. And it just falls quite short. Actually, it falls very short from that. Now, you might be thinking, Ren, wouldn't water be the best element to have in real life as well? And you would be correct, water is versatile in any situation. But here's the thing, in this game, water was set to be a healer. No nukes, no nothing, just ass DPS and some healers. However, there are a few exceptions for DPS, such as the one glacial iceberg perk. I don't know what that one was. But yeah, I've always seen it do like earth, hex, fire damage, but never really water damage. And honestly, the color of water, which is like blue in this game at least, it's pretty cool, I don't know about the weapon arts. I haven't really went water before. As stated before, I didn't really go any of these elements from that one point after wind. But honestly, I've seen some other people have it, and like their weapons, they look really cool. Like the water designing, it's so nice, it's so sleek, like with every other weapon. But I feel like water just stands on top of them. However, because water is mainly healing focused, that doesn't mean water just sucks at damage. I mean, meta water healing builds, those do exist, and I have seen some of them, such as that water scepter like healing thing, and then like the dive bomb one. I don't think that was meta, but that was pretty cool. People can come up with some really creative builds for water, let alone DPS builds. But other than that, water gets a solid B tier on this list. However, I feel like water could go higher if there were more damage builds. This would have been an S tier element, but it just falls short. The last element on this tier list is Hex. Hex magic. And if I'm being honest, Hex was made to debuff enemies, and it does its job really well in doing that. And the debuffs are pretty necessary. However, you can still play the game without them. For example, if you're doing bosses, you can have a few debuffers on your team. But yeah, other than that, Hex is pretty good in debuffing terms, that is. In DPS, it's actually not that bad. Some notable DPS builds being the Dark Tentacle build, and I think like if you know how to use Jinx correctly, which is one of the weapon arts for Hex, if you know how to use that, then that can do a lot of damage. I don't know how to use that. And another notable one is the Curse Flame Ray. I think that's what it's called. This ability is for Hex and Fire, and it actually is pretty good. You basically shoot a Hex Flame Ray from your eyes, and it does a lot of damage, including Hex and Fire. So yeah, the designs for Hex, they're actually pretty nice. They're number 2 on my personal list of for designs. And for weapon arts, it has 3 main weapon arts, that being Cursed Ground, Dark Tentacle, and Jinx. And then the Cursed Flame Ray, or 4 actually, not 3. But yeah, uh, other than that, Hex is actually pretty decent, like I said before. So this gets an A tier just because it can debuff enemies and the debuffs are really effective. Anyways, if you guys enjoyed this tier list video that I made, then please consider subscribing as it really helps out grow my channel. Yeah, that's about it.